So if you have student loan questions like myself, we're here to help you today. A few weeks ago, President Joe Biden, he made an historic move, canceling up to $20,000 in student loan debt. But not everyone will qualify for it. Eligible borrowers will need to meet requirements and apply before the end of the year. The president also extending the pause on monthly student loan payments and announcing a plan to create a more affordable, income-driven payment program. So now what? Here to help us do a deep dive into the president's plan is the student loan doctor. Sonia Lewis is CEO of the award-winning business. She has helped people wade through the confusing rules and regulations on her YouTube series, and she's here to help us today, soulmates. Sonia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, I have to ask, first of all, what made you just wake up one day and say, I need to help people figure out the college financial aid system?
Well, it's my professional background. I've been in higher ed over 10 years. And to be really honest with you, I was asking the Lord the same question. No, I was, I got into the whole business of helping other people because I had to help myself first. And when I was going through my financial literacy programs and getting myself on track, I'm like, people do not know the basics of student loan debt. So what I decided to do, this is years ago, back in 2016, I started helping people in Philadelphia after church at Corner Bakery. And so, we're just literally doing the fundamentals. And, the thing is, Mimi, no one missed their appointment. Everyone showed up. I don't even know what I was charging. It could be like $20, $30 just to sit with them right at Corner Bakery. And, I was like, oh, they're not going to show up. I'll just be here, having coffee. Everyone came. I'm like, now we might be on to something.
Yeah.
So from a
That is
practitioner,
right.
standpoint, it was really, really shown to be needed.
Yeah, it's definitely needed. I mean, we need this type of service, and we need people who look like us giving us this type of service. So we are so happy to have you here today. I want to start from the beginning.
Mhm.
So like I said, President Joe Biden, he announced up to $20,000 in student loan debt would be
Mhm.
forgiven. So let's just start from the basics. What type of loan qualifies for forgiveness?
So the important factor here is that everyone knows what type of loan they have. And if anyone's listening, I'm hoping that they go to studentaid.gov and check to see if they have direct loans. So the caveat here is that your loans must be in the direct loans program. If they have FFELP loans, Perkins loans, or Stafford loans that are not direct loans, they're not going to be eligible. And so there's a little window of time to do a consolidation if needed in order to be eligible for this loan forgiveness that the Biden administration will be handing out.
Okay, good information there. How do people apply for student loan forgiveness? What kind of information will it require? Is there a timeline that we're looking at? All of that good stuff.
So there's going to be an application released in the next 3 to 4 weeks. We don't know through which site yet, but I imagine through studentaid.gov. The income threshold for someone single is 125,000. For someone married filed jointly, 250,000. So we know there needs to be at least an income threshold. If someone's wondering, do I receive 10K or 20K? The best way to answer that is by logging into studentaid.gov. And Mimi, there's going to be two circles, blue and green. If you see blue and green, you're going to receive 20K as long as your income meets that. If you log in and just see a blue circle, that indicates that you only receive student loans and no Pell Grant during your time in school, you'll receive 10K. So it's as simple as looking at the colors in which you log into your studentaid.gov.
Oh, that was new information. Okay, so if it's blue, it's $10,000. If it's green, that
Yep.
means you received a Pell Grant and it's 20,000.
Yep. So blue and green indicates that you'll receive 20K. Yep.
Okay. Oh, okay. I learned something too. Hopefully, soulmates, y'all are taking notes like myself. Okay, so we did a story yesterday that said that some states said that they will tax people
Uh,
who have their student loans forgiven. Can you talk about what that may look like?
Yeah, it's horrible, Mimi. So the thing is, the government has committed to just a few years ago that any forgiveness that was given through any forgiveness program, they would not be taxed on a federal level. So it's so interesting to see the states that are not liberal tax students or borrowers for this money. And I think it's going to be really a big uproar. I don't think it's going to go over well. And so really, this is where you have to be mindful of how do you speak to your legislation on a state level? And then even, who are you voting for? Like, who passed this law? There's nothing that says that on a state level they have to tax you. It's just that they can. And it's really unfortunate. There are some states that have come out and said, we're definitely taxing. Others are kind of in limbo and most are not. So it's very interesting to see which ones are. And that's what voters need to remember when they go back to election time.
No, that's a really good point to make. A lot of the states that I noticed that were taxing student loans are the same states that are enacting these abortion laws too. So that tells you a little bit about how they think, right?
Exactly. So please do not forget things like this during election time. That's all I always say to people. And I think that even the Biden administration, strategically, how they release the information is so strategic. I think in time, because we're coming up on election again, so it's so interesting. I already kind of have foresaw that the information would have been released when it was. So these are just things to be mindful of as an educated voter.
Absolutely. So this next question is for a lot of us. I'm not going to say if I'm included in this, but, some of us have given up on our student loans. What happens, if it's like, listen, it's in God's hands now and some of our loans are in default? Do those loans still qualify for forgiveness?
Oh, so Mimi, it's the best time to get out of default. So if you're in default and you're watching this, please, as soon as the segment is over, go online to studentaid.gov. The information of who you should call is there. If you're not sure, you can Google student loan default resolution, and then the hotline will come up. Here's the thing. I do want people to log in, though, because there's a certain number for each person. But overall, they can guide you if you call the default resolution number. Right now, there is a Fresh Start program that Biden's administration put on the table, and it's enacted between now and next year. And so what that looks like is if you are in default, no questions asked, it is their job to help you get out. They may help you get out of default immediately, they as in the collection agency, or they may require that you do about a 3-month period of some type of payment. And they may ask a little bit about your income. But this is the time to be aggressive with the collector to get out of default. So I do these classes. I literally had 10 people while we were in class get out of default, in that time period. So it's working. You just have to not be scared to call and speak up for yourself.
What was that information one more time for if you're in default?
So they're going to go to studentaid.gov. And when they log in, it's going to say help, you're in default. And you got to take care of this, guys, because there's no program, even Biden's program, the 20K that's coming, that you're going to be able to get if your loans are in default. So you're going to call your collection agency, or you can Google default resolution for federal student loans. That number will come up. And basically what you'll say is, hi, my name is X, Y, and Z. I'm calling because my student loans are in default. I am aware of the Fresh Start program. How do we begin? And that's it. This is what I will say, Mimi. The collection agencies are playing a bit, and they are making people call us back in a week. Let's get the paperwork, really taking their time. That's strategic. So remember how they were calling you when you were in default? That's how you're going to call them. That's what I tell my tribe.
Listen, be just as aggressive when they were trying to collect, now that you're trying to get it out of default. So,
hey, Stacey, good morning. How's today going? Did you get my paperwork? So call them back the same way.
Exactly. I love that advice. Okay, so we told a few of our soulmates that you were going to be on, and they had a few questions for you. So before we end, I want to ask you a few of their questions. Janelle wrote in and she says, what if I paid off my loans prior to the COVID-19 pandemic? Do I get anything retroactively?
Yes. So unfortunately, the answer is no. There was a clip that Biden had said literally this answer, and he kind of snapped at the press about that question. And so the answer is no. The only way someone could get a refund on money is if they were eligible for what's called the Borrower's Defense Program. And that's if you went to one of the schools that was deemed as inappropriate or incorrectly enrolled or kept you retained. There's about 200 schools on that list. Outside of that, that would be the only way to get a refund, but not through this administration's plan.
Okay. All right. There you go, Janelle. Mark says, will your loan be forgiven if you have not held a steady job and have not filed a tax return in either 2020 or 2021?
So we're going to see when the application comes out what parameters and how much leeway they're going to give people. But they are saying that they're going to be going by the adjusted gross income of 2020 or 2021. The good news is that he has a year to get this done. The bad news is if I was him, I would not wait a year. When it comes to like federal funding and programming, we don't want to wait to take advantage of these type of programs because in 6 months something could change and financially they have to cut funding. So the quicker we know the details in terms of income, the quicker that person should move to be compliant to receive the money.
It's like free money. You don't want to wait because then it's all gone, basically. Go get it now while it's still in abundance, right? That's basically what you're saying. Okay. Isaiah says, if I'm planning on taking out a student loan next year, will those qualify for forgiveness?
So the thing is, Isaiah, it's whatever money you have available when you make that application. So for example, if Isaiah already has loans, that money's going to come in and clear whatever loan that he has. He can wait, but if he waits, depending on the certain period, again, we're getting to that tricky time period that these applications have to be submitted and received before December 31st, 2023. So, I mean, he could wait. Again, we just kind of against that slippery slope. Will there be money available? We don't know what's going to happen and where they may need to pull this funding from.
Okay. And last question from Latoya. She says, what if my parents claimed me on their taxes? Will it go by their income or mine? Ooh.
So good question. So I'm supposing that this person's probably still in school. And so again, when we see the application, we're going to see how we're going to denote that there was no income available. And it's not going to be uncommon for people because remember, we are coming out of a pandemic where most people did not work. And so I'm going to be really interested to see, is there another way that they're going to ask for income verification, or it will just simply be a checkbox like other applications that said I did not work? So it's a really, really good question.
Okay. I'm sorry, we're out of time. This is so informative. Like, I could talk to you on and on, ask my own personal questions, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you give people your website and how they can find you, and tell us more just really quickly on your web series and how people can sign up and that sort of thing, because this was so good.
So Mimi, if they're watching, they should go to Instagram, the Student Loan Doctor. That's where our running show is. Literally, Mimi, we've been educating and doing classes once or twice a day for free. So every class we have about 300 to 500, sometimes 1,000 people just wanting to get the basics of information. Just hop in and join us. It's no charge. Our website is drpleasehelpme.com. We have a YouTube series, The Student Loan Doctor. I don't know if you Google us, we're going to come up. Like, our goal is to just saturate all things student loan debt. And it's from the perspective of the African American voice. And so when I started this business, Mimi, I was so intentional that I wanted to represent the people that I look like, because student loan debt disproportionately affects African Americans different than any other race in the United States. And so our challenges with student loan debt are just a little bit different and a lot bigger than others. And so just from that perspective, we do what we do on our platform.
We love it. We appreciate you. We thank you so much. You gave us a lot of information here. Soulmates, please go check her out. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.